Okay, it's recording now. Can Greg go ahead and redo that so that we'll have it for the recording?
Okay, General Manager, will you please report out of our closed session?
Yes, I'm nothing to report, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We are now convening our regular meeting on June 3rd, our regular 7 o'clock meeting. We are hosting this meeting using a Zoom format that's been authorized by the governor, and we do have a raise your hand feature. If you go to the participants button and look for your name, you'll find you have the ability to raise your hand. We have, let's see, and I'm pulling that up right now. For those on the phone, if you only have phone connection, we will, at the appropriate times for public comment, inquire if there's anyone who's not able to use that raise your hand feature. Let's see. Otherwise, you will remain muted. Does that cover our protocol for Zoom, April and Greg?
I think so.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. So we also have co-general managers tonight. We have our general manager, Greg Orsini, and we also are onboarding our new general manager, Pat Kaspari. And I would like to just say welcome to Pat. And we're really excited for this time of transition. Both excited for Greg and his pending retirement, and to bring on Pat Kaspari. And as we, so now I'm going to call the meeting to order and enter item A1, roll call.
All right, Director Barsanti.
Here.
Director Corbett. Director Couch.
Here.
Director Mayo.
Present.
And President Burke.
Here. As we move to item A2, our Pledge of Allegiance item, I would just like to pause. You know, this meeting is happening at a historical moment. Great and powerful emotions that are deriving from old and new dynamics that are global and local. We all arrive at this moment with our own experiences, and as we enter this meeting, I would like to take a moment of silence and reflection. So please join me. Thank you. We now will have item A2, Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll move to item A3. Are there any additions to the agenda? Is our where are you, our general manager? Are there any additions to the agenda? Items may be added to the agenda in accordance with government code upon determination by 2/3 of the members of the legislative body. And let's see. Yes.
Not sure where Greg's video went to.
Or audio.
Or audio, yes.
We cut him off too early. He's not leaving.
Do you know of any additions to the agenda?
I don't know of any additions, no.
Okay, I'm going to move. Oh, no, I got to wait.
Was that a motion for approval of the agenda, Director Corbett?
I'll make a motion.
There you go. I'm back now. The camera went down for a second.
Okay.
Second.
And there are no additions?
No additions to the agenda.
Okay, and we have a motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, roll call?
Hold on, I had two people do second at the same time.
Oh, sorry.
Was it, I heard David first, so is it Director Couch? Is that okay?
Sure.
That's fine.
I just want to make sure I got it right. All right, Director Barsanti?
Here.
Yes,
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Director Corbett?
I'm here, but yes, Stu.
Director Couch?
Yes, I'm still here.
Director Mayo?
Yes.
And President Burke?
Yes. Okay, item B, public hearings. These are items of a quasi-judicial or legislative nature. Public relevant to these proceedings are invited. There is no public hearing scheduled. And we are on to public comment and written communications. Any person may address the board at this time upon any subject not identified on this agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the McKinleyville Community Services District. However, any matter that requires action will be referred to staff for a report of action at a subsequent committee or board meeting. As to matters on the agenda, an opportunity will be given to address the board when the matter is considered. Comments are limited to 3 minutes, and letters should be used for complex issues. April, do we have a time keeper for
I
public?
think Greg is going to use his stopwatch on his phone.
Yes.
And do we have any, we do have some written communications, is that right?
We do, but they were, if there's a few people who I see on who had sent written communications in case they were either not able to get on or they had some technical issues. So I would ask that maybe we go with the vocal first, and then if for those people who are on who want to communicate that first.
Okay, so if you could raise your hand if you have public comment, please.
So right now, President Burke, we have Barbara Georgiana, Sherry Wu, and Terry Supan that's on, and then Michelle Weiler. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute Barbara. And okay, Barbara, I'm just clicked to ask you to unmute. Could you unmute, please?
Okay. All right. Good evening, board. My name is Barbara Georgiana, and I have been a resident of Humboldt County for more than 40 years. McKinleyville resident for more than 16. I'm an active member of Church of the Joyful Healer, a member of True North Organizing, and I also serve on the McKinleyville Municipal Advisory Committee. Part of our McKinleyville community includes several unhoused people, and I'm here to comment about that. The COVID-19 pandemic has really impacted all of us. But for those unhoused, the shelter-in-place mandate has added another whole layer of stress to them. I ask you, how do you respectfully shelter in place when you have no home? When you have no home, how do you shelter in place? My purpose tonight in comment is to ask MCSD's support in setting up an emergency solution to the shelter-in-place mandate, while a long-term solution can be created and put into place. My heart hurts for my homeless neighbors. Thank you.
Okay, next person would be Sherry Wu. Could you unmute Sherry, please?
All right. I am Unmasked and unmuted.
Unmasked.
All right. I would just like to read a letter, if I could. Good evening, MCSD Board. Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District appreciates the team spirit that we share with MCSD, which has been particularly strong under the leadership of Greg Orsini. During recent years, our capital improvement projects and land use issues have been technically challenging, and we credit Mr. Orsini with providing readily understandable information and analysis to the MCSD board. That ability is much valued, and Humboldt Bay Water says thank you and sends well wishes to Greg on your retirement. So explaining these technical information is very detailed, very complex, extremely well is something that Pat Kaspari does as well. While we will miss him as our district engineer, we are so pleased to continue our relationship in this new way. Pat has been instrumental in our district's grant funding success and in many, many successful capital improvement projects. Congratulations, best wishes, and much success to Pat from your old friends at the Water District. With highest regards, Sherry Wu, that's me, and the rest of the board. So thank you, Greg. It's been great. And Pat, we're so bummed, but we're so happy for you at the same time.
Thank you, Sherry. That means a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's see.
Oh, Mary, what happened to Mary? How did?
There she is.
Yeah, she got muted somehow.
I think she muted herself.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, but I tried, sorry, I tried to unmute. I just have some background noise, so I'm going to be trying to be on mute so that it doesn't interfere. But I just wanted to, thank our first speaker, Barbara, and, in this public comment period, it's not really set up for a dialogue, but I just wanted to thank you for giving comment, and thank you, Sherry.
So our next person with their hand up is Terry Supahan. I'm sorry, I'm butchering your last name, but you can go ahead and unmute.
That's okay, Greg. A lot of people have a hard time. My name is Terry Supahan. I'm executive director.
Sorry.
That's quite all right. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're coming in loud and clear.
So my name is Terry Supahan. I'm executive director of the True North Organizing Network. We're a regional, multi-race, multi-faith social justice organization. We were created originally as a department of the Humboldt Area Foundation and have grown out of that to be our own independent 501c3 organization. And I just want to thank the board. We don't have any special requests, obviously, tonight that's been agendized. We do have an interest, a deep and abiding interest, and I wanted to explain that. As Barbara said in her initial comment, that we have a very high concern for our people who are unhoused and are homeless and cannot shelter in place anywhere safely. And we are hoping, and I just want to explain that True North's position in McKinleyville and throughout the region is that we're hoping that McKinleyville can help us be able to work with the County of Humboldt as well as the County of Del Norte in the future to do a better job of addressing the needs of our houseless citizens. That we're hoping to create some shelters in place, temporary, and in the future we're hoping to find more dignified and honorable and respectful ways to treat all of our people. And that's all. That's my comment. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Terry. Next person with their hand up is Michelle Weiler. Michelle, you may unmute. Okay, whoops, I unmuted you, but okay.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, can hear you loud and clear.
Great, thank you. I'm a longtime resident of McKinleyville, and I now reside in the Cochran Azalea neighborhood. And I know the conversation of a cell tower is, by the water towers here, is in very early stages, but I'm just calling in to voice strong opposition, especially if we're talking about 5G, for both health reasons and, property value reasons. And of course, cell phones are a reality in our life. I'm not saying no towers at all. I'm just really imploring the decision makers to implement smart growth and to really choose, wise locations outside of residential neighborhoods, of which there are plenty around us, right? And so I know as you guys explore this topic more, I just really ask that you make the decision for a tower in my backyard as if it were a tower being proposed in your backyard. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Thank you for the space to voice that.
Thank you, Michelle. Tony is the next one, and I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Great, thank you. My name is Tony Gerard, and I've been a McKinleyville resident for over 15 years. As the lay leader at the Church of the Joyful Healer and a leader of the McKinleyville cluster of True North Organizing Network, I'm concerned about the health and safety of our unhoused community. Californians have been under a shelter-in-place order since March 31st. There are many of our community members who are not able to comply because they do not have a place to go. They are being told by the sheriff deputies they cannot camp on private or public property, and when they ask where they are supposed to go, they are being told to go to Eureka or Arcata. However, the sites in Arcata are not only full, but they are also have waiting lists only for residents of Arcata. The biggest problem is that those cities are not their home. McKinleyville is. You will hear from my friend, Rick Ellis, who will share his story of living in his truck for 3 years to having a home now. But instead of just sitting in his house, enjoying his newfound shelter, he is out in the community trying to make a difference for those who are homeless. His heart and dedication to his fellow community members has encouraged me to do the same, to stand up for what I believe in, to love my neighbors as myself, and to be a voice for those who feel unheard. Eureka and Arcata both have solutions in place that are allowing many of the unhoused community to abide by the shelter-in-place order, and it's time we have the same in McKinleyville. I'm inspired by what the City of Arcata and Arcata House Partnership have done together during this pandemic. McKinleyville has the opportunity to provide the same type of services here. There are resources available, as well as agencies willing to manage the operation of it. We just need a place to have it, which is why I'm here tonight to ask the board to find a space within the 150 acres of park or open space land in McKinleyville to host an emergency shelter until the governor's order has been lifted. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tony. And now, Rick Ellis, you can unmute yourself.
You hear me?
Hear you loud and clear.
All right. My name is Rick Ekrit Ellis. I was born and raised here in McKinleyville. This is my home. This is where I live. This is where I spend all my time. I became unhoused due to circumstances, not of my control. I lost my wife to heart failure, then I lost my job, then I lost my home. I was on the streets for 3 years. I am now back in a home. My heart, my health, and my safety has been restored. I want you to hear me, and now hear me and Now I am speaking for many of the unhoused. We need a safe place for the unhoused people, and we need this to happen soon. Everyone needs a safe place to shelter in place. This means you, myself, and the unhoused people as well. I asked it, for your support in this endeavor with the unhoused people, and I thank you.
So I believe that's all the hands we had raised, President Burke.
We need
okay,
to do the phone people too. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 people on the phone.
Okay, well, Nancy's got her hand up let me see. So if there's other people that are on video that would like to speak, please use the raise hand option, and because it brings you to the top of the list, and makes it much easier for me to be able to. Okay. Oh. Okay, Nancy, you're unmuted.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to be repeating some of the things you've been hearing, but this is maybe a slightly different aspect. We all know that homelessness is a major problem that will require a national effort to resolve. We've heard and accepted the concept of housing first. That would be the ideal direction to go, but it will take time. In the meantime, our people, our neighbors, are trying to live in tents, under trees, in inappropriate places because there is no appropriate place. People are being forced to move from one place to the next since there's no place they can live. It would help to have a managed campground. It could be a supervised area where people can camp with a clean water supply, toilets, and showers. A place where they could have their dog, keep their belongings. It would be safer than being out alone in a field. It would make it easier to deliver services. It could be a step toward finding housing. With the help of state funds, Arcata has shown that allowing camping can work even in sterile areas like parking lots. We would need to find a place, funds, and work with nonprofit organizations, with law enforcement, and with the county. But I can't believe that it would cost more than the policing, the constant shifting from place to place, the wreckage of lives that's going on right now. These are our neighbors. Please see if you can find a way to help some of those most in need with something as simple as a campground. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you for unmuting me, Craig.
So I'm going to unmute all the people on the phone and ask any of them if they had public comment. Okay, then I'm going to mute everybody who's here just on the phone.
Okay, is that back to me then?
It's back to you, Mary.
Well, I would like to thank everyone who took the time to come in and speak on what you came to speak about, and particularly in regards to the homeless situation in McKinleyville. I plan on asking our general manager. I know he participated in a meeting earlier today, possibly with some of you. And so I'm looking forward to our board being able to hear about the dialogue at that meeting, and looking forward to having a dialogue ourselves, either in the general manager's report or in the board comments at the end. Would you think that's the right time to have that discussion, General Manager?
Yes, that would be the appropriate time.
Okay, so rest assured we will have more of a conversation at the appropriate time in our meeting. And again, thank you for being here to express yourselves. Thank you to the organizations that have provided the services that they have for hand washing and bathrooms. And I'm hearing you loud and clear, the request that more is needed, and we will talk about that. Thank you. Any other comments from any other board members? You know, the public comments is not a time to have a dialogue, but if there's any comments or clarity that other board members would like to make, I will allow that. Okay, thank you. Then I'm going to move us into item D, the consent calendar. Consent calendar items are expected to be routine and non-controversial, to be acted upon by the board of directors at one time without discussion. If any board member, staff member, or interested persons request is that an item be removed from the consent calendar, it shall be removed so that it may be acted upon separately. Is there, are there any items that anyone would like to be removed from the consent calendar? And hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar. John Corbett.
I'll second it.
Is that clear, April? Okay, then we can roll call.
Director Barsanti,
Yeah.
Director Corbett, Director Couch,
Aye.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
and President Burke.
Yes, thank you. We are moving to item E, continued and new business. And I know we have a couple of items that people are here specifically to discuss. Our legal counsel is here for item E5, and I believe our supervisor is here for item E8. So I was considering a reshuffle in the agenda, but I would not like anyone to be left out if they were hoping to comment on items, you know, E1, 2, 3, or 4.
It'd be my preference we stick to our agenda.
So the general manager and I discussed shifting items, and I want to hear his input.
Yeah, I would propose that that we go ahead and shift the agenda for people that we know are here. Considering what we're paying Russ per hour, I would hope that we could definitely move up E5.
I'm flexible. Whatever you want to do, Mary, is fine by me.
Okay. Yep. Then I propose we start with item E5 and go to item E8 and then E1 and then sequentially. I can hear argument if there's argument against that. Otherwise, that's what I'm proposing.
Okay. Hey, Russ, is your audio on?
Russ might be one of the phone ones.
Yeah, and I don't recognize any of those numbers. So let's see, that's James. Hey, Russ, is this you?
Correct, Greg.
Okay, wow, what a guess. That's why you guys pay me the big bucks. So anyway, Russ, I'll go ahead and start. Are we ready, President Burke? I'm sorry.
Yes, we're going to start with item E5 on page 156.
Very good, thank you. As the board is aware, MCSD has executed a purchase and sale agreement with the Pelosi Family Trust for the acquisition of the real property, which we will call the Pelosi Ranch. And upon which MCSD is we've reclaimed wastewater on the western portion of that property. We thought that it would be strategically appropriate for MCSD to purchase this property when it came up for sale. It came up for sale, and we worked through the process of appraisal and negotiation, and we find ourselves at the threshold of being able to execute the purchase agreement or to close escrow. So the purchase is being financed by a certain installment purchase contract executed with the CSDA Finance. With the SDA Finance Corporation as authorized by prior board resolution 2020-03.1. A phase 1 environmental assessment has been conducted on the real property and the maintenance and use of the property and the existing conditions state is contemplated post-sale. As recited in the proposed resolution 2020-12, which is attachment 2 here, the resolution will authorize and allow MCSD to close escrow and record the grant deed to the real property and authorize the board president to execute a certificate of acceptance in accordance with California Government Code Section 27281, which requires board authorization to accept a deed to real estate. Staff recommends that the board approve resolution 2020-12, which is attachment 2, authorize the board president to execute a certificate of acceptance, which is attachment 1, and record the grant deed to the Pelorsi real property located in or near McKinleyville, which is assessor parcel numbers 508-091-037, 508-081-034, 508-031-001, and 506-341-017 from the Pelorsi Trust, who's the seller, to the McKinleyville Community Services District, who is the buyer, and complete the real property purchase transaction with a scheduled closing on June 5th, 2020. That's the end of my my presentation.
I had a request, Greg. Can you, for the people who may not know where that is, can you give them a little geographic help for what we're buying?
Oh, absolutely. So, yeah, and excuse me for not having a map. Thank you for bringing that up. I should have had a map of the to locate it. But if you turn south on Anderson and drive all the way to the end, the barns and the farmhouse is there. And if you drive all the way down to the end of Fisher by the Hammond Bridge, when you're the property on the right hand side of the bridge is that's adjacent to the river would be one of those parcels. And then everything that if you turn and you look to the east, everything that you see looking to the east is part of the Pelorsi Ranch, and it extends all the way to the freeway.
Thank you.
And it's approximately 84 acres.
Greg, you'll have to unmute Mary because you're the host, and so I can't unmute her.
There you go.
Thank you. Perhaps I just stay on and you all let me know if the noise picks up too much for you. Yeah, I just would want to start us off here and say this is a great purchase, and it, just in case it felt, you missed it in the description, but this is extremely important for our ability to manage the treated wastewater effluent. During the times of year where we cannot discharge to the river, we need adequate land to apply it to for land-based irrigation. So having the extra capacity provided by the property has been a goal of the district, and we're really pleased to be able to make this purchase at this time. So are there any comments or questions from other board members?
Hey, Madam Chair.
Yes, Director Corbett.
This property is valuable to us in the short term, but it's also very valuable to our long-term interests and increased regulation. So I vote E5, we approve resolution 2012, authorizing the acceptance and recordation of a grant deed to real property located in McKinleyville, California, APN 508-037, 508-081, 034, 508-031-001, the certificate of acceptance, and the previously mentioned resolution.
I second that. I'd like to make a comment.
Yes, one moment, Director Mayo. And April, were you able to capture that motion?
Yeah, I think he was reading off of the staff recommendation, so I have enough of it. Yes.
Okay, I'm not sure, Director Corbett, that you read the final APN, which was 506-341-017, but
I add it.
okay.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay, Director Mayo, you have a comment?
Yeah, I wanted to second it, and also I wanted to say that I concur with Director Corbett, but I also wanted to add that not only is this a beneficial use for our district and the community, but we're keeping a rather large piece of property in open space, which provides many other benefits habitat-wise. So I just wanted to add that to our conversation.
Thank you. Any other board member comments? I'd like to open this up for public comment.
I don't see any hands.
I don't see any hands and don't hear any public comment. Carrie, pause. Okay, then roll call vote, please.
Before you call
Yes.
before you call the roll, should we ask District Council if he has anything further to add?
Well, yes, please. Thank you, Greg. Russ, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, am I assuming you can hear me okay? Really, no. Worked with Greg, of course, on the staff report, tried to be very inclusive. And of course, the certificate of acceptance we're asking you to accept tonight, that's required, of course, to close escrow for any public entity to acquire real property. So this is basically as contemplated in prior meetings and discussions leading up to approval of the purchase agreement. And this will authorize the district to close and the board president to execute that certificate of acceptance for the grant deed.
Okay, any more to add, General Manager?
Well, the only thing I'd like to add is sort of not really technical or pertinent to the execution of this agenda item, but one thing that I think that I want to congratulate the board on having the foresight to allow us to explore the purchase of this property. I think that we've increased our inventory of reclamation property to the point to where we should be fairly well set for the full build out of McKinleyville. I think that puts us in a very good position related to a way to ethically steward that land by using reclaimed wastewater instead of groundwater, and also the water's not being discharged or wasted. It's actually being utilized to grow fodder crops. So I think that we're being as responsible as you possibly could be with the purchase of this property and our long-term strategy for the use of this property. So thank you very much to the board for allowing staff to proceed with this endeavor.
Great.
I had a question. I had a comment too. So our existing site, years ago when we acquired it, we had to do it through, John, you might have to help me with the term, but we kind of did a public taking.
Eminent domain.
Eminent domain. And so we're not doing eminent domain this time. We have a willing seller. So I just want to point out it's a good thing.
And Dave, just for clarification, that eminent domain process ended up being a very good deal for the property owner in the long run.
Okay, thank you. I'm ready to move on to item E8.
Hold on. We got to do a vote.
Call the question.
We didn't vote.
Oh, we didn't vote. Oh, okay. Nope. I started moving that direction. Okay, let's have a roll call vote. Thank you.
All right. Director Barsanti?
Yes.
Director Corbett? Was that a yes, John? I hope.
Shouting a yes. Can you hear it?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Director Couch?
Yes.
Director Mayo?
Yes.
And President Burke?
Yes. Thank you for catching our roll call vote there.
Now I apologize. I don't want to scream into the microphone, but I may have to. I don't know.
You're coming
Well,
in
that
now,
was-
John. That's pretty, it's whatever you did, it's working now.
And thank you, Greg. Thank you, board. I'll go ahead and jump off the line at this point.
Thanks for being here, Russ. Thanks for your
Thank you.
representation.
Yeah, thank you, Russ.
Thank you.
Okay, as stated earlier, we'll move to item E8 on page 242. This is to authorize a letter to be sent on behalf of MCSD Board of Directors to Humboldt LAFCO and the Board of Supervisors. And I had appointed at our last meeting a special committee, I think is the right term for it, of Director Mayo and Director Corbett to draft a letter to communicate the district's interests in this dialogue related to incorporation. So please join me on page 242. And our general manager.
Thank you. So at the May 6th meeting, the board discussed the need for MCSD to be involved in all matters involving the community of McKinleyville, notably the matter of incorporation. The board wished for a draft letter to be presented for action at the June meeting. President Burke assigned made subcommittee assignments of Director Corbett and Director Mayo to work with the general manager on the draft letter. Director Mayo and Director Corbett provided content, and it was incorporated into the attached letter presented in the spirit of the conversation at the May 6th board meeting, and to further strengthen the necessity for MCSD to be involved in any conversation that could impact MCSD. So attachment 1 that's on page 243 is for your review. And then there was also some, I will go ahead and I will put the letter up. Would the board be pleased if I read the letter, or is the board okay with reading the letter out of the agenda?
Oh, I don't think we need to read the letter. Is there anyone else who would like us to read the letter out loud through the meeting here, or is it in the agenda sufficient? I would like to hear from Director Corbett and Mayo on your thoughts on what you chose to include in the letter, and a little bit on your process.
John, go ahead. I'll defer to you first.
You will get the last word in this way.
I hope.
Well, first we tried to analyze who should the letter be sent to, and we decided it should be sent to LAFCO because that was the real party in interest, and that's who was holding it on the agenda. It was less clear to us what the internal workings were on the Humboldt County Board of Supervisors, but we thought we needed to give them the benefit of our approach in the letter, and that is that we wanted to be included. And then we wanted to make sure that our supervisor got the notice as well. So that was the first process, is who it should be sent to, and we narrowed it down from a letter to the supervisor, a letter to the county, to a letter solely to LAFCO. The second part of the process was trying to describe McKinleyville, because we find the majority of people do not understand that we're more than a sewer water district. So that takes a little bit of explanation. There was quite a bit of, I got criticism from General Manager Orsini and from board member Mayo on it. And what I came out of it was we put down the best we could, but we need to think through a better set of terms and phrases so we don't have to get too long, that better describe the district's pretty broad-based role in McKinleyville. So That got kicked down the road a bit. It got translated a little bit, and that's where we were. Then we also were dealing with the fact that it was so unknown, we didn't know what state things were. So we tried to keep the letter pretty general. We have a broad range of activities. We are an elected board, and so it would be wise to include us in all the aspects of the negotiations. The last thing is, a lot of this is being driven, how do we get a good financial report? And that has been a challenge. I don't know, 15 years I've seen. I don't think it's been a top priority of county staff. Best way I could put it. And it's been difficult for supervisors to generate the information. And in the long run, LAFCO will be the place to generate it. So again, we thought perhaps the best approach was going and putting a clear message to LAFCO that we are interested in proceeding, but it has to have the finances first. And so that was my considerations in drafting it. And I did want to thank both Greg and Dennis, because we were able to, everyone had to give up some language and everyone got some language.
Thank you. And Dennis, I'm going to go to you next, but I also want to note that our supervisor wrote and provided a letter to us. I forgot to bring that forward in our communications item, but it's pertinent to this this agenda item. So after Director Mayo, then I will be
actually, Mary, I'd be
Yep.
I'd be fine if you'd read that letter first.
Oh, okay. So Supervisor Madrone, would you like to read the letter? Oh, he's going to need to be unmuted.
Madrone, you can unmute. There you go.
There you go. Thank you, Madam President and members of the board and the public. First of all, let me say that I think your letter is excellent to LAFCO and to the county and to myself. I take those comments to heart. And I think the letter really did a great job of describing all the great work that the service district has done. So I'll just go ahead and read the letter. It's not very long. Dear McKinleyville Community Service District directors and staff and the community, first of all, let me offer my sincere apology for not communicating with your board more often and for not providing an update on the efforts to track expenses at the county for McKinleyville. I need to do better, and I will. Second, let me say that I too was caught off guard by the LAFCO staff presentation. I also was not informed about this meeting and agree that the Community Service District and the 5th District Supervisor both need to be in the loop when these discussions are happening. I do understand your frustrations with that. And again, I apologize for whatever part I might have played in the failure to communicate. I want to be very clear that I do value the services that the district provides, the directors and the staff of the CSD, and agree that you all have done a superb job in running one of the best districts in the state. And I don't say that just to, be nice. I think it's well known that the work by your district, by Greg as a manager, and your board and staff has been superior. So your accomplishments with sewer, water, streetlights, and recreation are a huge asset to this community. And I want to thank you for all you do. Any transitions from a community service district to a city need to be considered carefully, including impacts to employees, retirement plans, as well as impacts both positive and negative to the community. Communication is crucial to us working together. I have work to do in that area, and I encourage the directors, your board as a whole, and staff to please contact me if there's anything I can do for the CSD and the community. And I put my phone number there. And I also put my email address to make that easy. So here's an update on the efforts to help the community have better data on total revenues and expenses made by the county in McKinleyville. That's never been done. It's never been tracked, so we don't have that data. In my work to get that data, nothing has changed, and that's part of why I didn't come back, because I've spent the last year trying to get my colleagues to support this request, and I believe we're very close to that happening. What my colleagues at the board asked me to do was find out if the community supported gathering this data. Not whether or not the community supported incorporation, because that's a question much further down the road after we gather the data that we, LAFCO, and others will need to adequately assess the viability of whether or not a city could be created. And there's a long process that I'll describe in brief for that. My board asked me to show support for that data collection from the community. The MCMAC voted unanimously to request the board to support this tracking of expenses with a majority. The CSD passed a letter of support for that data collection with a majority, but it was not unanimous, and I recognize that. The fire district supported the data collection and wanted to be clear that as long as McKinleyville stayed as part of the Arcata-McKinleyville Fire District, it would be fine. I have letters supporting all of that. There are also numerous letters of support from community members, and in the recent survey for the town center ordinance process, 15 individuals out of hundreds wrote that they felt that the town center, or that they were supporting incorporation being looked into. So again, no one is saying we should incorporate. I want to be really clear about that, and I said that from the beginning. Ultimately, that decision will not be mine. It will be the community of McKinleyville. They will make that decision. But in order to get to that place, this is an issue that is hard to discuss without good current data that does not exist. There's a lot of fear around this that gets created. What does it mean? Well, so I thought, let's get the data, right? So as a fiscal conservative, it seemed to me logical to have the county track the expenses in planning and building, public works, roads, and the sheriff's department for a year. That data will allow us as a community to have an informed discussion with the community service district, MCMAC, and the county and all the residents about what the data suggests. Does it suggest it may be possible to incorporate or not? If it looks reasonably feasible, that then we can raise the $50,000 plus or minus, hopefully from community donations, the county and LAFCO chipping in to do the detailed feasibility analysis. I would help coordinate that effort. If the analysis looks favorable and LAFCO agrees, then we go to the next step to get it in front of the voters. That can occur with a petition of 25% of the voters or by resolution of the CSD. So there are many steps, and yes, the CSD does need to be involved at every step, and I will do better to make sure that happens. So I will continue to work to get the data, keep you in the loop, and seek input as we go. To that end, I just wanted to ask, is there any other questions about this process? And are there any other matters that the CSD feels I have not been on board with them on or have not been responsive? Because I would like to know if that's the case so that I can help you with whatever you're asking. And I would appreciate us both working on communications in that regard. So again, apologies for not having come to you sooner. Thank you for this opportunity to address your board.
Thank you for being here, Supervisor Madrone. And I'll say, in my understanding of some of the concern that I've heard around incorporation related to the Community Services District is the idea that the Community Services District would have to dissolve in order to incorporate. And I would just like to state that in my understanding and in talking with our general manager this morning, that services districts quite often operate in conjunction with incorporated communities. So the idea that our services district would have to dissolve in order to incorporate is not a necessary action of incorporation. And is that your understanding, General Manager?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and so I think that is often part of the tension around the conversation of incorporation. And again, that, you know, what I'm hearing you say is you're looking for information and data and highlighting the fact that the action of incorporation is a community decision that's put to a vote. So I'll turn now to other board members to see if there are questions, more comments at this time.
Well, I think I'm next, ain't I?
Sure. Director Mayo.
Okay. Appreciate all the comments. Several mixed metaphors there. In fact, a CSD in many cases is a part of a municipality and functions, but the reality is that the prevailing money here that is taxed is at the CSD. So the concept of where to get the money to do this seems to be that we'll dissolve the CSD, use that money to do X, Y, and Z. One thing that needs to be pointed out, we'll talk about this in great detail later, is that a city can juggle money and move it around for things that it's not necessarily originally supposed to be used for. State does it all the time, cities do it all the time. A CSD can't do that. The specific money that's allotted to the CSD by the ratepayers goes specifically to those distinct services. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. But I have an addition that I'd like to propose to our letter. I felt that our letter was good, and the process. The only thing I disagree with John in is that somehow you may have felt that people were not too positive about your original. That's not the case at all. You did a yeoman job, and we were just trying to hone it down. The last paragraph, just before the last paragraph in the letter, I would like this inserted. I think you all have a copy of it. April, did a copy get sent to everybody?
No, I've got it. I'm going to put it up on the screen.
Okay, so I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it as well. I would like this. I would like this added, and you could tweak it if you want. But when we're talking about information, and this is informational, what we decided to do to LAFCO was to give LAFCO the information necessary for them to understand the totality of this district. So my addition would read, McKinleyville Community Service District is consistently honored as a district of distinction in the state of California for its excellence in financial stewardship and infrastructure, its political outreach, cutting-edge community representation and transparency, and especially water delivery and wastewater quality. Any extraneous actions or policies that could hamper McKinleyville Community Services District's mission is not in the best interest of the McKinleyville Community Service District ratepayers, the McKinleyville community, and Humboldt County. And I think that's important to add into this because part of the process that LAFCO does is an evaluation of value. Just because somebody wants to be a municipality doesn't necessarily mean the value of that is important, is not important, or what weight it has. But we know what the value of MCSD is. So anyway, those are my comments, and I will go along with the will of the board.
Are there any more comments from the board?
I wanted to say I think it's a really good letter. I think Dennis's addition is okay. I'm just seeing that for the first time, but it's okay with that. But I did want to say something too about funding and even cities for water and wastewater utilities. When you're a city, those get operated as what's called an enterprise fund. And that means you have to operate it and charge the ratepayers the expense it takes to operate it. And now there's been in the recent some move to privatize wastewater and water agencies. And when that happens, then there's a profit motive for an organization to come in and take over. But as long as that doesn't happen, as long as, you know, if it's a service district or a city, you have to operate under the enterprise funds rule, where, you know, you can't generate profits from your utilities and put those back into another department per se. So just wanted to make sure everybody understands that.
Yeah, thank you, Director Couch. That's a good point.
Any other board comment? Well, I will weigh in. John, would you like to speak?
I have one. When we're done with what we're going to do with the letter, I did want to make some comments to Supervisor Madrone if I could, but it doesn't have to be done now, then just cloud the issues right now.
Okay. I would like to respond to Dennis's insertion, and what I really appreciated about the letter that was written is it is not taking it's not taking a stance on incorporation because, well, I don't feel we have the information in front of us able to have a stance. But the language that you've added, Director Mayo, it feels to me, and maybe I didn't have time to absorb it fully, but the statement about not being in the best interests of the community of McKinleyville is, you know, is a value statement, saying that we unequivocally feel like it's not in the best interests of the community. And I don't know what I'd be basing that statement on.
All right, and I'm not absolutely solid on having to have that part, although I would disagree that some board members would agree to that being a proper value. But if you eliminated that last sentence, all of the stuff beforehand has not been mentioned in the letter, which is pertinent to the value that we provide, that the district provides. And I don't think all the LAFCO members realize that. So I'd be really happy for modifications if you guys chose.
Okay, and I really appreciate that, because what you started with is talking about being a district of distinction and the excellence that we do provide. And I fully agree that that should be highlighted for LAFCO in this letter. But I would take that second sentence out, and I think there's some grammatical editing that needs to be done. April,
what you talking about, Willis?
Okay, I see Director Corbett's hand is up.
We can have, subject to grammatical review of the chair and the general manager, we can go with the first sentence where we delete the last sentence of Board Member Mayo's statement, because I do believe that was a value statement, and we're just at the stage of trying to get some information.
Yeah, and I'm fine with, I'm totally fine with that, guys, and I appreciate your feedback.
So board, if you let me share my screen again.
Yeah, and I do want to say that makes it tough because we've got to remember, otherwise. I got to brain these days.
So I struck that last statement. So is the board amicable with everything that's not lined up or struck through?
What? Yes. Oh.
So I make a motion to add that to the letter.
Well, how about? Okay. Well, we can do. We don't have a on this item yet, right?
No public comment yet.
Yeah, we need public comment. So any board members want to change any language at this time? Okay, I'm not hearing any, so I'm going with that's generally favorable language. So let's go to the public and hear public comment on this item, please.
Please raise your hand if you'd like to talk.
I'm not seeing any physical or digital hands go up.
Nope.
All right. So we can now bring it back for, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
I thought I already moved.
Oh, did you move? Okay. Did you get that, April? You're on mute, April.
He started to make a motion. I don't think, John, I got partial and then you kind of got interrupted. So, because you started to state something about, you know, barring the grammatical errors and then you got interrupted. So.
I move we delete the last sentence of Director Mayo's proposed language.
Okay, I'll put it back up there so everybody can get a look at it again.
And was that the end of your motion, or were you going to add more to it as far as the?
I assume we can stoop to good grammar in our letters.
So
and does that imply the body of the letter as presented in the board packet is also approved?
That's an excellent point, Madam Chairman. I move the whole letter plus the sentence, McKinneyville Community Services District is constantly honored as a district of distinction in the state of California for its excellence in financial stewardship and infrastructures, political outreach, cutting edge community representation, transparency, and especially water delivery and wastewater quality, period.
Okay, grammatical, you got that? Okay,
I got it, yep.
Grammatically, it was consistently and legislative in the first reading. Sorry to make it complicated, but is that how you had read it, April?
So that, yeah, can I give a suggestion to just state that to move the whole letter plus the addition of the statement from Director Mayo minus the last sentence?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But what my point is that there were two words that Director Mayo said that were spelled wrong. One was consistently, and the other was, and I think the other was cutting edge legislative representation.
Cutting edge community, cutting edge. It's up again. Where would you like the modifications at?
Well, the constantly.
So let me read the sentence correctly too.
Oh, consistently.
Okay.
Public outreach, cutting edge community representation, and transparency.
Okay, then that
one's fine.
It's
just the first one. Yeah.
Okay, so consistently honored.
Yeah. Okay.
I assume the chairman and the general manager have authority for spelling and grammar error consistent with the meaning of the language.
There, you put an N in there right before there, and you got it.
Consistently.
There we go. Ian. Anyway, we'll get that, but it was a different word, and so I just wanted to get the right word.
No, that word didn't exist.
That's not it.
We'll get the spelling right.
We'll get it. It'll be good. We're good.
All right. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate that. I just thought for that's left out many times, even to the public, as to the scale of what we actually accomplish.
Yes, thank you for including that. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we can roll call the vote.
All right. Director Barsanti.
I will be abstaining.
Okay. Director Corbett. I'm sorry, Director Corbett, did you say yes or no, or? Okay, I think I read your lips. You said yes.
Thank you.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
and President Burke.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Mhm.
Could I ask a quick question, Director Couch? I'm curious, how or who did this come to LAFCO at your meeting? Who brought it? How was it brought? Just out of curiosity.
It was just part of the activity of staff, what they had been working on. So
Part of the normal biannual review of the districts, that type of thing.
Well, that hasn't happened yet. That's going to come up. This was just a report on, things that, they have a section where they talk about what staff has been working on. So it was in that section. It will be coming up for our biannual review this next year.
All right. Well, thank you. Just curious.
Okay, are we ready to move to our next agenda item?
Oh, I had a comment to Supervisor Madrone.
You had a comment to Supervisor Madrone, is that what you said? Okay, please.
Appreciated your broad approach that's going to be involving all the elements of the community. And as I said, I've seen other supervisors have difficulty getting the numbers from the county. And I think you've made more progress than any of those supervisors. And if you can get the unanimous support of the Board of Supervisors, that would be quite an accomplishment towards getting good data on this matter.
Thank you, Director Corbett.
And I would be available to meet with you, Supervisor Madrone, on this item if you would like to talk further with myself and our general manager. At this point, it's two of them.
I would appreciate that, and I've got a meeting with Pat tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock at Hiller Park to get to know each other better and to talk about our cooperative work.
Excellent. Well, thank you for bringing your letter to this item. And now we'll be moving to item E1. Consider approval of the fiscal year 2020-2021 proposed budget and appropriations limit. And we're on page 57. And this goes to our finance director.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. Okay. This is the proposed 2021 budget. It does differ in some important respects from the various draft budget elements that we've presented to the board and discussed in previous board meetings. We've updated some assumptions about our revenue streams, of course, about grants and about capital projects. The Parks and General Fund budget has seen the most adjustment because it has to reflect our current best estimate of the impact of the various state and county orders relating to the COVID-19 pandemic, starting, as of July 1st. And just as with the current fiscal year, where we expect to see the significant impact is facilities rental revenue, recreation program revenue. Those losses will be partially offset by reductions in related expenses like part-time personnel and supplies. We also have a certain modest increase in expected increase in property tax revenue, and that will also partially offset that loss. However, all of this stuff is very speculative, and assuming that reality is more than 10% off of our guesstimates at this point, we will bring back a revised budget in fiscal year 2021 for board action, for board discussion and action when we have better information, basically. We've got the graphs, historical trend analysis, the capital projects budgets, which have been compressed to line totals, but the narratives offer more specific detail. and those are included. The appropriations limit calculation is the last part of the budget, and that is required by state law, and it calculates the amount of property tax revenue that may be spent by a local government entity, including special districts. It has to do with population growth and all kinds of other things, but that requires a board resolution, and that's included as attachment 2. So any questions, and we can talk about that.
Great, thank you. And I will turn to my board and see what kind of questions we have. Director Corbett?
Yes, I have a lot of questions, but I don't think it can be fit into the Zoom format and the irregularities of my voice. So I will not ask those, and I will meet with staff privately.
Okay, this is a roll call vote item. So with that, your meeting, would we need to move the type of item?
Action tonight.
Sorry, would you repeat that?
I want us to take action tonight. Because of the microphone difficulties, it would be senseless and counterproductive to ask a lot of questions and answers with staff. So I will forego that and be willing to vote on the major issue. But I will meet with staff after the meeting to ask those questions and have a discussion.
Okay, so it sounds to me like Director Corbett has questions to discuss, but they're not pertinent to a vote. So we will be able to move forward with the vote.
I wouldn't go that far, but it won't work under Zoom. So you have to adjust to your medium.
Okay.
John.
What was that, Dr. Mayo?
Why don't John make a motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the budget as presented by staff and with the analysis. And I appreciate many of the new changes you've made.
Second.
Okay, well, any other comment from board members?
I have a quick
yes?
one. For the public that's here, you know, we're going to probably quickly approve the budget, but we've gone through all these sections in advance. So, you know, don't think we're just being too quick with this, because we've gone through and reviewed each section in the budget in previous meetings. So.
Thank you. General Manager, do you wish to say anything at this time?
No, I just think that, so I would just like to bring light to the fact that the parks budget balanced this year with a significantly lower revenue that were and if the board looks at the park and rec budget, it is significantly different than it was last when it was brought to the board preliminarily. And what staff did was we assumed that with the issues with COVID, that between now and December 1st, or between July 1st and December 30th, that things would remain status as they are now. So the potential for significant program revenues or facility rental revenues would be nil. So that being said, we modified the revenue side of the park and rec budget to reflect no real gains in revenues between July 1st and December 31st in the program and in facility rentals. And then we went with historic projections from January 1st to June 30th. If that doesn't vet out and there's changes to that, expect that the staff will be bringing the budget back to make modifications around December. But I just want to commend staff for being able to balance the Parks and Rec budget with those significant reductions in in program and in facility rental revenues. And the way that that was accomplished was a deferral of capital replacement. Most of the maintenance is going to take place on time or per schedule, but we've deferred some of the capital replacement that was supposed to happen in the first half of the year.
Okay, thank you for that added explanation. Would any member of the public like to speak on this item? So I don't see any hands.
No hands.
Format. Okay. And we have a motion and a second. Before we go to vote, I just would like also thank you staff for being adaptable and creative and strategic and fiscally minded to get us through this period of great uncertainty. So
I think the credit mostly goes to Leslie, or a lot of it does.
Thank you, Leslie. So April,
Polly,
yeah.
We're all working together, so thank you.
Yeah, great teamwork. Thank you all. So we can go to a roll call.
All right, Director Barsanti?
Yes.
Director Corbett? Director Couch?
Yes.
Director Mayo?
Yes.
President Burke?
Yes. Okay, we move to item E2 on page 104, and this is our annual board self-evaluation.
Yeah, so we do this every year. So you guys should have all received blank copies of the board evaluation in an envelope for you to complete. Staff recommends that you review the information, discuss and take public comment, and then regarding the annual board self-evaluation, this is an informational only item. I would like to call your attention to the date that it is due. Would like to make sure that I get everything back in a sealed envelope by July 15th. This will allow me, I'm sorry, it says July 5th, yeah. No, I need it before the July meeting. That should be June 15th. I apologize for that, which does give you only a couple of weeks. No, we're going to put it in the August meeting? I don't know. Greg, is it going to the August meeting?
So remember we had this conversation.
We did.
So last year we gave the board an extra month to do the evaluation because we didn't have a live meeting. So I honestly don't see any harm in sticking with what it says in the agenda.
Okay.
Until July 15th and then
August 5th.
5th meeting.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for that. So yeah, July 15th is when I will need them back. That will give me enough time to get them ready for the August 5th meeting. So that actually gives you a little over a month to do it. Are there any questions?
And so you will be compiling our board evaluations, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, great. And no questions from board members? Any item on the, anyone from the public wish to comment on this item? Okay, then hearing none, we will move on to item E3. This is discuss and decide on district preferences for the November 3rd, 2020 election, page 109.
So the Humboldt County Office of Elections sent us our correspondent that's in preparation for the statewide general election, which is going to take place on November 3rd, 2020. And so the following officer terms are expiring in 2020. John Corbett and Mary Burke are both 4-year terms. Shel Barsanti is a 2-year term. The elections office has requested the following information for the district for the upcoming election and is due back on the 5th, which is Friday. Who will be paying for candidate statements, district or the candidate? Maximum word length for candidate statements, 200 words or 400 words. How will your district be resolve a tie, which is either by lot or runoff? And have there been any changes to the district boundaries? For the last several elections, the board has determined that the candidates would be responsible for the cost of publishing their statement and set the length of the statement for 200 words. After the information requested is determined, staff will return the completed form to the elections office. So staff recommendation is that the board review the information provided, discuss, take public comment, require candidates to pay for the cost of the candidate statements to be limited to 200 words, and resolve tie by lot. Additionally, I'd like to make one quick little informational item thing as well with this. If you'll look at the correspondence, it will also give you some information on some of the changes in order to apply or file candidacy papers in order for these spots. There are some changes because of COVID-19. So you can, instead of having to go in person to request the candidacy papers, you can actually email, call, for them, and you can receive them by mail or by email. So that's some of the changes that are taking place because of COVID-19.
Can you tell me what the difference is between a lot or a runoff? I'm sorry, I don't know what that is.
Greg, do you have any?
Yeah, lots of when you draw out of a hat numbers or draw straws, or it's a random choice like that. A runoff would be to actually to have another poll.
And so that would need to be determined if, let's see, if the third highest vote getter were tied between two candidates.
Yeah, correct. If your first and second candidate were tied, they would get the seats. If your second and third candidate were tied for a two seat race, they would draw lots, or there would be a runoff.
How
would it really have a runoff? Is that why you picked the lot?
Sorry, state that again, Shell.
So this means that the public doesn't choose. In case that happens, it means that it's sort of a luck of the draw. So is the reason that you chose because it would be expensive to have a runoff? I don't understand.
Exactly. You're right.
There would be more expense, and it would also prolong finding out when, because they would have to reissue another ballot.
Okay.
And do you know how it works when you have two, like we have the 2 4-year term seats and a 2-year term seat?
Yeah, so when you are asking for your filing papers, you are going to specifically tell them whether you are asking for the 4-year term or the 2-year term. Yeah. So when you file those papers, it's going to be very specific on that.
Yeah, you'll actually have to choose whether you want the 2-year seat or the 4-year seat.
Okay.
Sorry, what was that, Director Barsanti?
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm not real familiar on political things, so I appreciate it.
Yes, great. Okay, so this is a roll call vote item. Are there any more questions or comments? And if not, well, yeah, questions or comments?
I have one. I like the staff recommendation, but and I'm sure that this won't go anywhere, but I would prefer a runoff as opposed to a lot.
Yeah, I would agree with him.
Okay. I will then go to the public. Is there any public comment on this item?
No hands.
No hands. Then I'll bring it back to the board and or our general manager if there's any more comments.
No more comments. Thank you, President Burke.
Okay, then I'll entertain a motion.
Could I ask a question, since there's three parts to this motion, one being the year term, the only thing that's in contention is the runoff or lot. Can we vote on the first two? Because I have no objection to those. We're probably not gonna. It's probably gonna pass on the other one as well. But would it be appropriate to vote on it in two separate parts, or because I'm not sure how to vote if I don't do that.
I understand. Yeah, we can. Whoever we can do that.
Have
That's
we
not
made
a
a
problem.
motion yet?
Whoever does the motion can do that. Yeah.
And also there, did I just not hear you answer, have there been changes to the district boundaries? Did I just not hear what you said?
Oh, thank you, Shell. No, we didn't ask that.
We didn't, yeah.
Okay, I'd like to hear that. I appreciate it.
Greg will have more information on that.
No changes to district boundaries.
Okay, thanks.
That was an easy one.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
So I'll move the first two components of this recommendation.
Second.
Okay, so we're gonna, we have a motion and a second to move the first two items, which are the
Staff recommendation, other than the lots.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Correct.
So roll call vote, please.
All right, Director Barsanti,
Yes.
Director Corbett, Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
President Burke.
Yes. It sounds like Director Corbett is hissing into the microphone. Yes. Okay, so we have the lot or runoff item. I'll entertain a motion to define.
So I'll move the question on the staff recommendation on the third.
Second.
What does that, you moved the question?
We're going to vote on the third option, on the third component.
To resolve by lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the staff recommendation was lot.
Oh, okay, I get it. Thanks. Thanks for clearing that up.
I have Mayo and Corbett.
Okay, good. Okay, roll call vote, please.
Well, I have a comment first.
Oh, yes, please, go ahead.
So I wanted to say, I mean, I don't like it because it doesn't sound democratic to do it by lots. But the problem is that it would be a special election. So the district would have to pay for the whole special election, whereas normally our elections are kind of wrapped into other elections, so it doesn't cost us much. So that's kind of the argument there, and I'm going to hold my nose and vote for it.
So Greg, how much would you think, does anybody know how much a special election would cost?
No, I wouldn't even venture a guess. I believe that the last time we had to pay for an election during a regular election year, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of around $30,000.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a lot.
And that was us included on the ballot with all the other things that were on the ballot.
Right.
And there's no other, like, you can't get together and do like a, shouting match. Who gets the loudest cheer gets the seat. It has to be done by a flip of a coin or something.
Yeah, I would think Rochambeau would be a good way to settle that.
Yeah, you can do that any way you choose as a board. I mean, we can decide to do it any way we want, but
yeah, Dennis might have a point there. I'm not 100% sure that they've got a specific lot drawing lots distinguished or designated. So who knows?
Yeah, most of the time they flip a coin, but you can decide how to do it however you feel like,
Right.
So, yeah.
Rochambeau, 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
Well, we have an estimate of $30,000 associated with a runoff, and that we don't know if there is, but it sounds like we think there's not a formal way to resolve a lot. And with that, okay, and then we have Dennis has made a motion.
Did somebody second?
Yeah, John did.
Okay.
Director Corbett seconded, so we're ready for a roll call vote.
All right, Director Barsanti.
Yes.
Director Corbett. Director Couch.
Yes.
Director Mayo.
No.
And President Burke.
Yes.
Because it's so undemocratic, but $30,000 is a big deal.
Even if it's only 15,000, it's a big deal. I understand. It's just one of those things.
Prerogative.
Yeah.
The way things are these days, I would really question if it was fair or not.
Well, it's a done deal now.
With some of the hijinks you see going on with the mail-in ballots and stuff like that, I would think you'd stand a better chance drawing lots.
Huh? That's true.
Well, I'm going to just hope on the statistical chance that it won't be a tie.
Yeah. Okay, well, if the district ends up having any more information related to how a lot is determined and what the parameters are there, will you please report back to the board?
April, we could have April check on. April, could you check on how much a lot is tomorrow?
Yeah. No problem.
And what process?
About 100,000 in Grace Park.
Okay. We are moving on to item E4, which is a professional services agreement on page 119. And this goes to our operations director, haven't heard from yet, James Henry.
I wasn't aware that I was presenting this one. I just did it, but I guess I'm.
Well, why does it have your name that you're presenting it?
Well, I think you changed it to my name, if I'm being honest. But do you want this or do you want me to take it?
I can take it if you want.
Oh, okay.
It'll be the last. I'll do it just because I won't get to do very many more.
Okay.
So in November of 2019, the district received a hazardous mitigation grant to construct a 4.5 million gallon reservoir. If the board remembers back, we did a water model some years ago and determined that the district to have a sufficient amount of resiliency related to our single crossing, that the board thought that somewhere between a 4.5 and a 5 million gallon tank additional reservoir storage would be a prudent endeavor. So this has been on the capital CIP for many years. In fact, this project was actually supposed to launch before the wastewater management facility project, but due to constraints for time and our impending change in our MPDS permit, we opted to do the wastewater management facility project first. So in the meantime, hazard mitigation grant funding has become available, and not very many storage projects have been awarded this hazard mitigation grant funding. But with staff's coordination and GHD's help in administering the grant application, we were bequeathed with enough money to build with 75% of the cost to build a 4.5 million gallon tank. And so what we're here tonight for is to request that the board approve a professional services agreement between MCSD and Kennedy Jenks to do phase 1 and phase 2 the design and construction management of the project. And that will basically be phase one would be the feasibility and permitting, and then phase two would be and it would be also basis of design, and phase two would be full on design and bid assistance and construction management for the construction of the tank. So anyway, staff recommends that the board review the information provided, discuss, take public comment, and authorize the board president to execute the professional services agreement with Kennedy Jenks to perform engineering services for the 4.5 million gallon water reservoir project, and declare the general manager as a designated representative of MCSD, which is attachment 1. The effort for this project is not to exceed $1,329,297 with a 10% contingency of $132,929 for a total expenditure of $1,462,226. And with 25% of that being a local match, which would be from district, which would be from either district reserves or from a loan financing, and the other 75% would come from grant funds from FEMA and Cal OES. Any questions?
Any questions or comments from the board?
I do have one question. Greg, do you foresee that our OES money might get fouled up with the finances from the state? That's likely to.
Well, so this money is actually federal, Dennis. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Director Mayo. So the funds are encumbered. So basically, as long as we expend the funds within the time limits that are dictated in the funding agreement, I don't foresee any difficulty in getting reimbursed.
All right. Thank you for that answer, Greg.
Yeah, and I want to again thank management. You know, we had so many projects approved when there was money and the getting was good. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you know, our partnership with GHD on getting these grants was been great. We just seem to be able to sit down at the table and look at what grants were available and look at our CIP, and then be able to actually position our CIP projects so they fit within the parameters that made these projects highly qualified for grant funding, and it worked out really good, and so it was great that we were able to work with GHD on these, and then like I said, embellish or manipulate our CIP projects so that they were more they fit within the criteria for the grant funding.
It's always great when your needs fit with grant programs so nicely. And I would like to say this project also fits nicely with the community's top concern when, just to reiterate that, I know we've talked about this project multiple times and I've said the same thing, but when the community speaks loudly that their interest in emergency services, as was indicated in the poll that we put out when we were doing our strategic planning, it's great to be able to deliver a project like this that addresses capacity and will help in case of an emergency that takes other water storage offline. Okay, any other comment, question? Any public comment on this item? I see Lean with your camera on. Is that to speak? No. Okay. Seeing no hands and hearing no comments, then I'm sorry. Do we have a motion on this item?
No, not yet.
So I'll entertain a motion.
Also move per staff.
I'll second.
Great. And a roll call, please.
Director Barsanti,
Yes.
Director Corbett, Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
President Burke.
Yes, thank you. And we are then moving on to item E6 on page 180. And now I know why your camera is on. We're going to our Finance Director, Colleen Trask.
Yeah. So item E6 is the audit request for proposal. We go through this process every 3 years and look for another auditor. This is both a best practice and recommended that our auditor, recommended by the state that the auditors, our principal auditor, change every 6 years. But we've been doing this on a 3-year cycle. And this year we sent out a dozen requests for proposal. We received 3 proposals, and the audit committee, the general managers, and myself reviewed those proposals against criteria. We scored them, and the winning proposal, or the proposal that was considered both most responsive and responsible, was FEDAC and Brown. And they have been our auditor for the past 3 years. So this would be their second round of auditing. So the staff recommends that the board review the information provided, discuss, take public comment, and authorize the general manager to execute a professional services agreement based on the proposals submitted by FEDAC and Brown. That's attachment 1.
And it's also up on the screen for the scoring. So
and attachment 2 is the scoring. So, and those numbers are aggregated and averaged. So, oh goodness, that just turned out very small. Sorry about that.
I could probably make it bigger.
It's okay.
How's that?
Anyway, every time we go through this process, we revise our process more. And this year is no exception. And hopefully when this happens again, we'll have, it'll be revised even further, and it'll continue to improve. Continuous improvement is a thing. Anyway, so that's, any questions, any comments from the board or the public?
It's John Corbett. I just had one. The 3 years is actually a very good protocol. However, it's not required. And you have to take into account the financial circumstances of the district. And in my personal opinion, I supported waiving the 3-year rule because we have great uncertainty in our revenue, great uncertainty in government intervention. And I thought this is a time to have experienced pros sorting through the information with our staff. And now to both Patrick, Michelle, and to Colleen, that means 3 years from now, there should be an extra hard search to get a new auditor. And I can tell you, a good old auditor is always hard to get rid of. But if you keep going year after year, they've found that's not as good an audit than if you switch. So I'm very prepared to vote for a waiver of the 3-year under our particular terms and circumstances. That's why we have brains, is to exercise judgment. But at the same time, it means more imperative 3 years from now, which I won't be here, but for the people to find a way to make a positive switch if at all possible.
Director Corbett, in any case, even I believe the way the state has written that guidance, even if you end up with the same firm, you have to have a different principal auditor. That's been basically disallowed. So I don't know who FEDAC and Brown, I believe they'll assign Andy Beck to us again, but he wouldn't be able to do 3 more years. You know, he wouldn't be able to do, even if FEDAC and Brown wins the next round of bidding. And I distributed this list much more widely than I have in the past, primarily because most of the local firms are either maxed out on their audit book. They don't have capacity to take on another audit, or they're not doing a lot of government auditing. So because there are extra requirements around that. So this year I started out with a rather large list and weeded it down somewhat, and then ended up distributing it to about a dozen firms and getting 3 good responses.
I mean, it is a challenging marketplace with a thin number of potential applicants, and it gets worse all the time because of the California rules, the national rules of accounting. It keeps getting more and more complex, and so to make money at it, you really got to be specialized. But if you do that, there's only a few.
Yeah, John, there's a real shortage of accountants too. That's what's happening is lots of young people aren't becoming CPAs, and you have to be a CPA to be an. And then also all the firms are specializing now. They're really pushing us to CPAs to, there's a real change in the way that accountants are doing their work, and even our license is changing to include more folks that have computer experience so that they can computer audit. So we're in a big right now, and there's a lot of litigation. So I don't even know, a couple of our audits were so incredibly inexpensive that I think they probably would have added quite a bit more money. They would have had to cover, you know, just their liability. I was surprised it was so low, but you know, so that's kind of what's going on. In 3 years, you're going to have a lot of trouble, but you can have the same firm do it as long as they change like partners. So maybe that firm has another partner that's allowed to do. Hopefully it'll be allowed then. I mean, it's going to have to be because there's so few auditors now doing government audits, especially in our area. So, or that will come to our area. So yeah, it's a bummer. It'll probably change, you know, as there gets to be a shortage, and there'll be more young folks in college coming into the profession. So hopefully.
Okay, any other comment from board members? Any public comment? See no hands, hearing none, then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we take the recommendation of staff.
Thank you.
Committee too.
With that.
And the audit committee.
The audit committee.
The audit committee.
He's saying as per staff and the audit committee.
Oh, as per staff and the audit
committee. Staff, but it's not in the audit committee.
I didn't hear what he said. I'm sorry.
Same thing.
No, it isn't.
The audit committee.
Yeah, okay, so the statement is just that Director Corbett would like it to be noted that the audit committee is making the recommendation in conjunction with the staff. Yeah.
I make see, the audit committee makes a motion that we
no, I think your motion.
Hey, Shelf, her audit committee recommendation would be a good, appropriate.
Now, what was that again?
Her audit committee recommendation.
Okay. The audit committee recommends that we follow staff recommendation.
There you go.
Close enough for government work.
I'll second, but.
I do.
Oh boy, this is really going off the rails. John, did you try repeating what you
Yeah,
said?
John, why don't you do it? Do it the way that you want it.
Oh, now he's leaving.
Nice.
Okay.
I'm gonna write it, I think.
The committee approves the bid from Fadek and Brown is contained in our packet and is reviewed by staff and by the audit committee.
Did you get that, April?
Do you want to repeat it back for us, April? And you're on mute.
Sorry, I've been putting myself on mute because I have animals and children who are coming in and out. So I keep forgetting I put myself on mute. So the motion is to approve the audit, gosh, I can't even think of the word.
Audit services.
Thank you. Services agreement with FEDAC and Brown contained in the packet and reviewed by staff and audit committee. Is that correct, John?
Absolutely.
Okay. And a second?
I'll second.
Oh, okay. And roll call.
Director Barsanti?
Yes.
Director Corbett? Director Couch?
Yes.
Director Mayo?
Yes.
And President Burke?
Yes, thank you.
And just to state, the board can't delegate the duty of reviewing an audit independently of staff. And that's one of the few areas you can get in trouble as a board is if you don't do that job. So we have to independently review that, make that clear in the record. And of course, we heavily weigh the recommendations to staff like we do in anything else.
Was that clear to you,
That was-
Director Barsanti?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what John said.
Yeah, John was a little breaking up.
Greg.
I'll call you on the phone, Shell, tomorrow.
I think it's essentially that the board needs to needs to review the services contracts and make the decision independently, but can weigh the staff recommendation heavily. But it needs to be our audit committee that makes the recommendation. And if I don't, is that correct, John? Shake your, yes.
So is that's not really a motion, it's just a...
Just clarifying statement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Then we're all cleared on that item? Yes? Then we are going to item E7.
We need to call the question.
Did we not? I
No,
think we voted.
We voted. We voted.
Oh, did we? I'm sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, John was just making a clarifying statement.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
It's just getting late. We're getting tired.
And we've already forgotten it, so.
Well, obviously I forgot that we voted too, and I had it written down.
Okay, well, we better get through this next one. Item E7 is a street lighting zone resolutions on page 209, and we go to our general manager for this item.
Thank you. Let's see, we're on page 209. So this is a fairly procedural thing that we do. So when developers are required to put streetlights in their subdivisions, if streetlights are part of the requirement to record their subdivision, the developers will place those, and then using the Landscape and Lighting Act, McKinleyville Community Services District can and usually does assume responsibility for the streetlights, and to pay for those, we create a maintenance zone for those. And so tonight, what we are doing is we are going to initiate the formation of 3 streetlight zones. We have streetlight zone 102, which will be formed through resolution 2020-13. Streetlight zone 103, which will be formed through streetlight zone 2020-14, and streetlight zone 104 that will be initiated through through resolution 2020-15. After the board approves the resolutions for the initiation of these 3 streetlight zones, which total 7 streetlights in 3 different subdivisions, the next step of this will be the staff will send out ballots and notices to the people in the streetlight zone. Since the streetlight zones are all owned by the developers now, there will only be 3 ballots necessary. But the requirement for this is that we have a majority vote to approve the subdivision. Since that's only 1 person per subdivision, that's pretty straightforward. It's the developer that we do that. If the board is interested, you can view the attachments, which basically are the maintenance zone, are the engineer's reports for the maintenance zones, and through the calculation of what it's going to take to maintain that streetlight zone, we then calculate out what that's going to cost in the perpetuity of the streetlight zone. That includes replacing streetlights, replacing poles, paying for insurance, paying for pole inspections, and electricity, and all the other things that go along with maintaining a streetlight zone. That and then it's divided by the number of parcels we figure out what that is going to cost annually, divide it by 12, then divide it by the number of parcels, and that's the monthly charge that we charge each property owner. That fee will show up on their water bill as a monthly charge. So staff recommends that the board review the information provided, take public comment, and approved resolution 2013 initiating the formation of Avalar Imison Streetlight Zone number 102, resolution 2020-14 initiating the formation of Day Griffith Streetlight Zone 103, and resolution 2020-15 initiating the formation of Valadeo Lime Streetlight Zone number 104.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Turning to the public, are there any questions or comments from the public on this item? Okay, bringing it back, I'll entertain a motion. It is a movable item, right?
Yes.
I'll do it. I'll move that we make sure I got the right, adopt resolution 2020-13 initiating the formation of streetlight zone number 102, resolution 2020-14 initiating the formation of streetlight zone number 103, and resolution 2020-15 initiating the formation of streetlight zone number 104.
Thank you.
I will second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are you good, April?
Yep.
Okay, let's have a roll call vote.
Director Barsanti?
Yes.
Director Corbett?
Yes.
Director Couch?
Yes.
Director Mayo?
Yes.
And President Burke?
Yes. Okay, that gets us through our New and continuing business, we're on item F now, to reports, and F1 are active committee reports. We'll start with the Recreation Advisory Committee. Couch.
Well, we met via Zoom, and kind of, I think the main thing we discussed was potential development of a BMX track at the school in Washington property we own, and that's about all I remember.
And if there's anything to add from our recreation director, Leslie, you're welcome to chime in.
That was on the agenda. It was heavily discussed. It's in my notes and my staff report. And just a little bit more on that, the group of the folks who've been pursuing this idea and doing fact finding and getting public input, they're hoping to be able to make a presentation to the board in July or August. So it'll eventually be on the agenda to present to all of you.
Oh, that's great. I've been hearing a lot about this through you all. I look forward to hearing more from the group that's championing it.
And I had something to add when it's appropriate.
Oh, go right ahead.
So part of the report talked about some kind of an honorarium for Director Wheeler, and you know, I've been thinking about that kind of thing for quite a bit, and I think it's wholly appropriate. But I was thinking for a further discussion, maybe we could think about it, put it on the board for discussion of maybe finding a place that we could have a nice honorarium for our past board members who have passed away. I know Director Winterholm was on that rec committee for a long time, very active in getting a lot of stuff done for us. And so I think it's appropriate, and I'd like us maybe just to expand the conversation a bit.
When you started that, did you say you'd like it to be an agenda item in the future so we could have a full discussion on it?
Yeah, I think it's appropriate. I think it's something that one of the problems was trying to make a special park and the cost. And I don't think that that's something we need to do. I think we could vet out our locations and what would be inappropriate to, you know, put up something nice that honors our past directors. You know, just those are just a few thoughts.
Okay, and I could imagine that perhaps the Recreation Advisory Committee might be useful in helping think through some of the logistical issues. Greg, how would you see directing staff in that regard, like putting together an idea of what kinds of costs would come forward?
Well, so I think it could be handled a couple ways. The board could actually discuss it, or you could task the Rec Advisory Committee to come back with a proposal. I think would be easy enough right now, and it might save an agenda item.
And that's fine. This is not something that's critically time sensitive. So, you know, it's not something that I think we have to just jump right at, but, you know, food for thought. I'm sure everybody will have some thoughts about it. Maybe we can have a conversation over the summer about it.
Right. But it might also be worthwhile to bring this back as an informational item so that you can define some parameters so that the Rec Advisory Committee has a little bit more direction on what the board was thinking.
Absolutely. So, and thanks for those clarifications and you know, just general comments. That's all.
Well, No, I really appreciate that, Director Mayo, and I think it's a great idea to bring it back to the board for more direction to then get launched into our Recreation Advisory Committee. So I would like to follow through on that.
Yeah, it's noted.
Great. Okay, item B, the area fund, and that is Director Barsanti.
Oh, yes, I see that in our packets, we got a copy of all of the entities that were awarded the funds, and that was really nice to see. So thank you again, Mary, for letting me be part of that. That was a real nice group of folks, and I think they did a really good job choosing, who got the funds, and it'll be real helpful, especially right now in our community.
Yes. So I'm really glad you got to participate.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, C is REDEC, and that's Director Mayo.
Yeah, nothing new to report. The same report as last time. Lots of kind of proprietary loan stuff and stepping up. And you might hear some ads on the radio for, we love Redwood Capital Bank. Dennis Rael and different folks got their loans and stuff. So that kind of process going on has been good.
Great, thank you. And the McKinleyville Senior Center Board Liaison, Director Barsanti.
Yeah, of course they're not meeting, let's hope that but my husband's involved, in the memoir class. And what they are doing is they are raising funds independently, and finding computers so that they can get them to more seniors and teach them how to use it so they can come on Zoom and they can share their memories. And I think this will be something that even when everyone can get back together, that they will be able to use, because there's a lot of seniors that are homebound. So my husband is real excited about that. And that's the only thing that I've heard about the senior center, but yeah.
Great. The Audit Committee, do you have any more to report?
No, we don't. Well, we chose, thanks to Colleen. She's put a lot of time into the evaluation and the summary and everything. Really appreciate that. I think that was a really good way to do it. We had a Zoom meeting and everything, and I'm real happy with that.
Great, thank you. Employee negotiations, Couch?
We don't have anything to report.
The McKinleyville Municipal Advisory Committee, we did meet via a Zoom meeting. Oh gosh, Greg, you might have to help me out. Did we meet twice since? It feels like it.
Yeah, we met once. We met once for to take care of McMac business, and then we met once for to review stuff related to the town center, I believe. Can we meet early in May 6th and then May 27th?
Right. And so the meeting to address McMac business, I'm sorry, I don't have my notes in front of me. Is that when we elected new officers? Have we reported out on that?
No.
So the McMac chair is now Maya Conrad, and the coach and the vice chair is Kevin Dreyer, and the secretary is Bonnie Oliver. And those are the only assignments. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. But when do they actually take their positions? Because they haven't yet, have they?
Have not. I think it's the July meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. On the town center, we received a presentation that summarized the public input from the online survey and had a dialogue about that input. But there was no recommendation given from McMac back to the county at this time. And in July, we are meeting twice again, Greg? I'm sorry, but one is, well, you won't. I think, will that be Pat joining us?
Yeah, Pat will. Pat will do the June and the July meetings. unless he asked me to do the, I would be so inclined to do the June meeting, but
Okay.
we'll make sure one of us is there, or both of us.
So just like we received community members requesting there be a way to help support people who are experiencing homelessness right now through the shelter in place, so is the MCMAC. And I look forward to hearing more about the dialogue that happened when we get down to the general manager's report. But just so you know, the MCMAC is also receiving those requests. So Humboldt LAFCO, Couch?
I don't have anything to report. The committee met, but unfortunately I had a conflict with, I had a job-related thing for a 75% engineering report on our treatment plant upgrade, so that took priority over LAFCO, so sorry.
It's all right. Environmental Matters Committee, Couch and Corbett.
We did not meet.
Okay. Legislative and regulatory reports, item F2 on page 245. We have the documents from the CSDA, the legislative session.
Yeah, so on page 245 is the take action brief, which is the summarization of the legislative efforts that are going on with our state association CSDA, and it speaks for itself. But I also have an update related to federal goings on that have to do with special districts. So I'd like to report to you that Representative Garamendi introduced a special districts provision into the Essential Services Act. So our federal advocacy is paying off, and we're expecting Congressman Garamendi will introduce legislation this week that will allow special districts direct access to the coronavirus relief funds. Under the bill, each state would be required to allocate no less than 5% of the state's share of future coronavirus relief distributions to their special districts. This legislation would remedy concerns surrounding special districts, future access to much needed assistance for previously unbudgeted expenses, and potentially revenue loss due to COVID-19. This bill is gaining traction with co-sponsors from other California congressional representatives, and we will continue to be engaged in the effort. Additionally, it would establish a first ever federal definition of special districts. So there's some pretty big stuff. If you've read any of the CARES Act or any of the other Relief Act things that are related to COVID-19, cities and counties were mentioned, but no special districts on the federal level. So I think we've reached the tipping point now, and we've gone nationwide. So I think this will probably be one of the first times that special districts have ever been mentioned in federal legislation. So good on us. I know that our staff at CSDA has been meeting with other special districts, state associations for special districts in Oregon and Colorado and Florida and a few other states. And when I was the president of the CSDA, we made our rounds to a bunch of planning sessions, and that was one of the things that we really wanted to make sure that we had a voice in Washington D.C. as all the special districts in the whole country, and it's actually coming to fruition. I remember reading through the language in these, and it really irked me that that special districts weren't called out in any of the special subsides from the federal government, and so we got busy right away on making sure that wasn't the case, and we've got a sponsor for the bill. So this is pretty exciting for me.
That is, thank you. Do you have more to add, Director Mayo?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate how much our outreach, how important our outreach is. Congressman Acosta also was very helpful in this process. You know, John Garamendi sometimes is a thorn in our side on some issues. That's just, it speaks to having relationships and working together and not being single-minded or one-issued about stuff. John has always been a supporter of water, California water, and so him going this route, we thought that was going to be easy, and it was easy, and we really appreciate it. I just can't reiterate enough how important it is for us to always continue our outreach. We may not agree with a representative on 1, 2, 20 issues, but many times we agree with them on 1, 2, 20 issues. So that's just what the continuation of it. Anyway, and thank Greg a lot for all of his stewardship when he was the president of CSD.
Yeah. Does it go so far, Director Mayo, to make you want to draft a quick letter of, thank you to?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And Greg CSDA probably already has, I imagine.
I don't know, but it doesn't matter.
Well, it's just always good. They're believe me, John Garamendi doesn't need anybody patting him on the back. He's pretty sure of himself, but everybody likes to have a kudo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you're going to have your hand out when somebody puts something in it, it's not too bad to say thank you.
Yep. So I think that's a great idea, President Burke.
You can call me Mary. That's okay too.
I think we ought to write a letter to the special district organization for lobbying for it and sticking to it, because they're part of they helped with the solution, and we need to get a whole group of people that are supporting some of these things thanked.
Yeah.
I don't think they're thanked nearly enough.
Yep. No, I agree.
Did you capture that, Greg?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Any other legislative?
That's it.
One reason why we're successful is we know what we want, and most people sit back and they get all these federal bills and they can't follow them. What on earth is happening? When we're approaching federal or state officials, we know what we want, and we can make a very specific ask, and that is politically very potent. It also means we don't have to always come back to the board to support this or that. We've really supported a vision out there. So I want to say that, especially when we switch general managers, we have to encourage having that long-term vision and your long-term ask, and so that every time you have an opportunity with your political class, you can advocate for it, and it's amazing how often they bite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Great. That's great guidance, Director Corbett, and you and Director Mayo also really stay on top of legislative issues, and I want to thank all the board members and encourage us all to do what we can, and yes, support our new general manager in really digging in there. Thank you. Okay, we are. Any more on legislative and regulatory reports? Okay. We are moving into staff reports, and we start with our finance director on page 253.
Do again. I will keep this very brief and just highlight a couple of fairly important things. One is while the shelter-in-place orders from the county and the state remain in effect, the county has set guidelines for reopening. As you've noticed, there's a lot of private businesses that are already being able to reopen once they get their reopening plans approved by the county. Our plan to reopen the offices has been certified by the county. Procedures are being set up. We are still going to be encouraging customers to do their business with us online or over the phone whenever possible. But we should be back to taking, essential, if you like, essential transactions in person, including, signing up for new service, pre-sites, construction pre-sites, things of that more complex nature. So just FYI. A note on the treasurer's report for April, the county's regular remittance of taxes, we get one in December, one in April, and then a last one in June. If the April remittance did not include the normal interest apportionment for any of the funds that we currently hold. I looked at the detailed reports and none of that was included. I inquired at the Auditor Controller's Office. They did indicate that the interest apportionment entries would be made before year-end close. So I made adjustments to our general ledger so that to bring them into parity with the county's general ledger, and when the county posts those interest payments to the trust accounts, I will make adjusting entries accordingly. The last thing I want to point out is also in the treasurer's report. The cash disbursements report of the portion of the treasurer's report contains an impressively large number of refunds. Virtually all of those are for recreation programs and venue rentals. So if you want to see how that has impacted the district in a very, very direct way, that's where that information is living. And that was all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Thank you. Next item is Operations Department. James Henry. Now we get to hear from James.
I have nothing to add this time, but thank you.
Any questions for James in the Operations Department? Okay, hearing none, we go to Parks and Rec with Leslie, our Recreation Director.
Well, I reported on the BMX thing and their intent to come, so I don't have much to add. I do want to report on the childcare program that started this week. Just for us, it's kind of a big deal, given that we've never had to run programs for children with these kinds of guidelines and parameters, specifically having to wear masks and social distancing. So we're definitely like on the edge of learning how to do something in a new way. And I do believe we're one of like the earliest recreation programs locally to open. So it's going well. We started with a very small group. Our staff are sort of learning as they go, and then they'll get to pass the information on to staff that come on as we let the program grow. So it's kind of, I think it's a good model in that we are starting small and learning and then able to work out kinks and re-strategize and readjust with a small group, as opposed to going big right off the bat and having to struggle through some bigger problems. So yeah, it's going well, and we're looking forward to subsequent weeks where we have more kids.
That's great. I applaud you in your recreation department, really doing a right-sized approach to launching. And I wonder, where is the program being held? Are you taking advantage of outdoor spaces to help address to work in the safest manner possible?
Yeah, so we're right now, this week we're stationed in the activity center, but the use of the park, Pearson Park, is a daily thing given the weather stays nice. So yeah, they move in and out of doing indoor and outdoor activities.
And one thing I'd mention to our general manager is, there's at least one school locally that does full school programs outdoors, and that if you were looking to grow in different ways, perhaps incorporating more extended time in nature might be a way to help meet some of the guidelines for distance and not being in enclosed spaces.
Yeah, we are looking into and researching different opportunities and ways of programming.
Great. Thank you. Any questions? Okay, then moving to our general manager's report, page 268.
Well, I was going to have nothing to add, but since you would like a briefing on the meetings related to some of the questions that we've had for homeless issues. So had a couple of meetings this week. Met with True North once, and True North is very interested in focusing their efforts or their resources on getting a place set up, a shelter set up for unhomed people that would last through the shelter-in-place order, so that they could all be, so that the unhomed people could all be in one place. And so they basically approached the McKinleyville Community Services District, asking us if we would commit a piece of property or an area where they might be able to put up tents. And so I was fairly frank with them related to our level of our ability to provide resources, and so that any decision related to citing a homeless shelter camp / tent area for them to set up tents would definitely have to be a board decision. So they would have to come in front of the board. I was also recommended to them that they find a third party that could administer the program and fund the program, and that any sort of participation that McKinleyville Community Services District did provide to it would have to take into account that there'd have to be cleanup, and that that the site would, that the impacts would have to be minimalized and then remediated when it was over with. And then today we Supervisor Madrone put together a meeting, and it was more of a global discussion related to the homeless situation in McKinleyville, and some of the things that we could do. And Supervisor Madrone what he had to say was very compelling, that he's not getting a whole lot of support from the county level related to what's going on here in McKinleyville. So we kind of brainstormed some ideas that we might be able to do, and thought about trying to find a third party that might be able to go out and try to get grant funds, and then also facilitate fact finding with people in the community that are wanting to participate, but holding off on any sort of town hall sort of meeting until there's a more defined what we're asking for.
So it sounds to me like there's a real need for a couple things: property for an entity to manage, and then funds to administer. And when you say the county isn't gaining traction, is it your understanding that there aren't funds to bring to bear to this sort of effort through the county and state?
As far as and I don't want to speak for Supervisor Madrone, but as far as I understand it, that his requests have fallen on deaf ears so far, related to his ability to bring any resources to bear from the county for the situation in the unincorporated areas of Humboldt County.
Yeah, and right now, probably for quite a long time, there's not going to be any extra money there hasn't been any sales tax money come in here for an appreciable loss for the last 3 months. So maybe more. Anyway, the fundings are going to be a big deal.
Did anyone have an estimate on the costs, like per month, based on maybe what Arcata's doing or Eureka's doing? No.
No. There's so far almost all the discussions have been very summary and very 30,000 foot level sort of discussions. Nothing specific.
Any questions from board members? And this is general manager's report, so I'm not sure how to, how far to extend dialogue, because it's not an agenda item per se, but I do see Supervisor Madrone has turned on his camera. And do you think it would be appropriate, general manager, to see if our supervisor has more input at this time?
Sure.
Supervisor Madrone?
Thank you, Madam President. And thank you, Greg. It was a good meeting today, and I have to say that, the service district, April, Leslie, Greg have been engaged in lots of conversations in the community on this subject, and it's very much appreciated. I think it was a good start today, and much of it's already been discussed, and we're trying to find a way to be able to move forward. And so I'm going to be seeking funds from the county or Humboldt Area Foundation to help us facilitate an ongoing effort to really ramp up on ideas that the community might support to be able to do things. The Arcata camps are costing about $6,000 to $7,000 a month, is what I'm hearing. So about $60,000, $70,000 a year. They will be closing those after shelter in place ends as well. So we're not identifying specific sites yet and that kind of thing, but I do think, as you saw tonight in your public comment, there is a growing interest in the community of trying to figure out what can we do. The county has provided limited funds, and I very much appreciate it. DHHS has been working with Johnny Calkins to get the portable toilets, the hand washing stations, and things like that in the community to help as much as possible for people to continue to be sanitary. And of course, Joyful Healer and others are doing incredible work in the community already. So we're really just trying to bring together all the folks that are working on things, True North and others, and see what else might we be able to do. And ultimately, as was said earlier, we're going to need funding. So I'm trying to encourage the community to write letters to the board to encourage them to consider the needs of McKinleyville as well, and see what we can do to partner up. In Arcata and Eureka, they've got cities, right? So there's city resources and county resources being applied. But in McKinleyville, as Greg had says, you've got sewer, water, streets, and parks and rec. So it's not really your call. So what I'm trying to do is increase the county involvement as best I can and work with all those that are already doing great work in the community. So unless there's any questions, I'll mute myself again.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Well, I have just an interest of asking board members if we were interested in participating without a financial commitment. So if there were a fiscal sponsor, what are the thoughts on being able to provide space? I know it's a challenging, you haven't had time to think about it, but if you have anything that you're willing to share on your thoughts. I
think we're getting a little far out of what our discussion area should be at this point. This is not an agendized discussion. General comments were fine, but those kind of specifics, I think we need to work on that internally and then get back for a discussion item. Just a thought to the will of the board, but that's my.
Fair enough. Okay. Any other comment from our general manager? or any questions to him?
That was all. Thank you.
Okay, then we are at President's report, and I do not have additional information or report to bring. I was going to bring up the dialogue that we just had about our people in our community who are experiencing homelessness. Feel we have addressed that, so I will move to item F5, board member comments, announcements, reports, and agenda item requests.
I have one.
Okay.
I see we actually have members of the public who are still with us. So thank you guys very much. We appreciate you listening to us tonight.
Yes, thanks for being here. It's nice to see you and know that you're with us all the way through our meeting. Other comments? Yeah, Director Corbett.
Madam Chair, I think that we have the option of an informational study session where the board can't take any action, but it could be used to explore these ideas. It's within the discretion of the board and the chair whether they listen to the public. Although I have found, I like to hear about them if you're studying something, because a lot of times they have good ideas. You just can't take any action. And that might be a way to educate board members. I know I need more education on the homeless and to get a feel for the board and what some of the issues are. So I would recommend you consider that as an option.
Okay.
I didn't hear what he said. Could you kind of go? I didn't hear what he said.
Yeah, I'll summarize, and John, you can tell me if I got it right. So Director Corbett is suggesting that it's at the president's discretion to host an informational meeting, be able to learn more about an issue. In this case, the issue being people experiencing homelessness within our community and all the related intersecting issues there. Is that a summary?
Yeah, I'm confused. I thought we were doing that. Greg, could you clarify that already?
We are participating in community meetings, but we're not hosting informational meetings for the board. I think that's what John, Director Corbett was suggesting, is that we host.
I'm sorry. Let me kind of ask my dumb question. I've misunderstood that. Are you saying that perhaps we should have a little group session at a board meeting to have people come in and chat about it?
Like a workshop?
Yeah. Is that what you were suggesting, John?
Yes, it would be.
Okay. All right. I misunderstood you. That's all. No worries.
But the board would have no authority to act, but they'd have the authority to listen, ask questions, and hear from the community.
All right. Sounds like, yeah. Okay. I just misunderstood you. That's all.
When President Berkholm, when were you thinking about doing that?
I hadn't been thinking about it until Corbett brought it up.
We can discuss that offline then. And
okay.
I would just make a suggestion, since the McMac is discussing it, that perhaps you could have a bit of a McMac discussion about it and let us, as we participate in that, try to maybe build on that for the board, perhaps, just as a thought.
Well, this Director Corbett, I think it's essential on some issues that there be a redundancy with the McMac, because we have our own interests. So, for example, I think it's really great the Sheriff's Department is working with the McMac and going through a lot of policies and things. But I think we need to invite the sheriff once a quarter or once every 6 months to make a presentation to us, and we can deal with our issues. And the same thing for Public Works. And I think we're not trying trying to compete with the MAC, but we are trying to make sure we're fulfilling our interests and they get articulated. And we've had excellent leadership in Mary and in Greg. But I just think it's good to remind that we have our own interests that need to be taken care of. I mean, we had a time when the county didn't talk to us about a street grade, and we had to hook up, and it cost us $200,000. So
Right.
we have some of these nuts and bolts interests. It's really important to make sure we keep those lines of communication clear.
I guess, John, that's part of the confusion. April, did John not get the information about us getting together and meeting with these guys?
He told me that he got it, but we haven't been able to set the date yet with him, and I'm hoping at the end of our meeting we'll be able to do that before we get off.
Because I thought that we were heading in that direction for preliminary. Yeah. Okay. All right.
I view this as a little different because this is the board as a whole. And I don't know about other board members. I know I need more education. And I can get it through a subcommittee or I can get it for the board as a whole. So that's all. And it was left at the discretion of the chair.
Okay, thank you. So I'll follow up with our general managers on this. Okay. Any other agenda item requests? Okay, then that brings us to adjournment, and I will hereby adjourn our meeting. Thank you all for your participation. Again, thanks to the public for being here to